Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Seeking Profit. I am here, as always, with my buddy, Emil. Emil, what's up, man? How you been?
Good, dude. I was telling you before we hit record, but another week, another cold in the shore house, man. It's nonstop. I feel like winter is coming has a new meaning in my house with little kids and the older one being in preschool.
It's so bad. I didn't get it before I had kids. I was like, I spent a lot of years building an immunity. I'll be fine. And the kids like eat some random thing on the floor and the whole house is down,
Dude, have you realized, like, as you've gotten deeper into parenting, all the things your parents told you growing up and you're like, you're old, you don't know what you're talking about. I just find with every year, like, everything they said is more and more true. And I'm like, man, they kind of got it. And I'm just like figuring it out now.
I'm like parroting them. When I was younger, I would do like all these reckless things and stuff. And I say to the kids so much like safety first, hold on to the railing, safety first, blow your food if it's cold, it's hot, safety. It's like, wow, lame.
So lame. We're exactly like our parents. You know that like it's a Geico commercial or something where it's like how to prevent becoming your parents. I'm like, dude, I'm becoming my parents and it's awful.
Remote control Velcroed to the coffee table or like, was it Scottish eggs in the freezer? I don't even know. So we were talking the other day and you had a really good idea. One, because you've been starting a lot of sites recently and it was about like, how long does it take to make money after you start a niche site? What are general expectations? We both have like a lot of samples to choose from. I'll let you kick it off.
Cool. It's like, I think a lot of people get started and, you see all the people on Twitter who are making like 10K, 20K, 30K a month, right? And it's like, it takes them years to get there, but it's also
it's kind of nice, demotivating to read.
It is. It's like, man, it's a long time of nothing happening. But I think when you make that first dollar, it's really motivating and like you finally see some traction and it gets you going. So I just thought it'd be cool to like show people, like I'm going to pull up one of my sites. I have the profit and loss, whatever you want to call it. Basically just monthly expenses, monthly revenue. What did we do? Where are we making money? How many page views did it take to make that? How long did it take? Just to give people like a good idea of, how long does this stuff take?
And you have some sites to give an example. I'll give like LMM, Giftlab, whatever. We'll give like a broad.
Yes. Awesome. All right, let me share my screen. So if you're listening on a podcast, I'm going to try to dictate everything so it makes sense, but definitely recommend hopping on YouTube, watching this episode so you can like see the numbers. I'm a visual person, so for me, it's just easier to see it that way. So, all right, this is a spreadsheet.
This is a really nice spreadsheet, by the way. I'm now completely embarrassed of mine.
I try to keep it really simple and just like, if I have a number or like some metric that I'm like, what do I even need this for? Like I don't even look at it anymore. I just delete it. So it's as bare bones as I can possibly make it is kind of how I have this broken down. So this was a site I started in May of 2021. At the top, I have expenses, and then at the bottom, I have profit. And you can see, like for 2021, we're not making anything. It appears where 2022 is, and we have a lot cooler stuff to talk about. But here it's just page views is all I was tracking. So first month, we had writing was $550. I paid some dude on Upwork to help me with some images and then some hosting.
How many articles did you get from $549?
Oh man, so I did a poor job of tracking that for this site. You see it up here in 2022, I have how many live articles. I should have done that for 2021, but I don't have it. If I had to guess, I'd probably say, I just found a writer, paid $550. That's probably like 5 to 10 articles, something like that, if I had to guess.
Wow. Were these good articles?
They were shorter, more like definition. They weren't like 1,500 to 2,000 word stuff. And for this niche, there's a lot of short articles that can be written. You don't need to write up, mammoth guides. So That's where I started with this. That's probably why I got like 5 to 10, if I remember correctly. Okay, so page views 51. That's probably me going to the site. It's not even like real page views. So you can see that's May, June.
You and your mom. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Me and my mom, my friends who I'm showing. I'm like, look, I started a website. You can see, June was relatively the same. July, I started sprinkling some link building. So I think, I forget how many links we got for this, 4 or 5 links, here. And, continuing the writing about $600 $600. It wasn't until August that I started like doubling down. I think at this point I had hired a new writer. My writer for the first 3 months just was not that good. I'm curious to see how. Yeah, go ahead.
What made you start doubling down? Because you weren't making money yet at this point. Like, why'd you go faster now than earlier?
I think I just was like, man, I've done this enough times with client, working in-house, client sites. It's like you create content, it takes some time, but then good stuff starts happening. And I also, you can see here, like September, I actually just stopped. I don't know, for whatever reason in August, I was like, let's just go. Like, I think I wanted to get to 40 articles was my, like, seated with 40 articles. And I was like, what does it matter if I do it over 4 or 5 months or just do it as quickly as possible? So I think in August, I was just like, whatever, let's just double down. That was the max capacity my new writer could handle. So we just kind of doubled for that month. And so continued link building. And then September, I hit 40 articles, and that's when I just let it sit. I think at that point I'd spent, let's move it to the right here. Yeah, basically you can see for the year I'd spent $4,000, $4,100, and I just let it sit. I was like, all right, let's see how long it takes to start going. And so you see page views down here. So May, basically nothing, August, September, nothing. October, okay, we're starting to move. November, all right, we've crossed 1,500, and then December, 6,000. All right, this thing's finally alive to me.
Why do you think it happened in December? Like, nothing to do with Christmas, just kind of that's when it started happening?
I'm seeing it this year, so, you learn some seasonality with sites. Winter is more of I thought it would be more summer, but I guess it makes more sense. It's like a prep for the... It's when the profession, like at the different levels, this sport is being played at like the professional levels. And like, from like young kids up to like pros. So like I'm seeing it this year. It's like November, December, it comes out of like the summer and fall doldrums and starts like rocketing up. So I think it was a combination of, it had been, let's see, May, June, July, August, September, October, 8 months. That was month 8, right? December is month 8. You can see November, it like starts to slowly come alive. So month 7, month 8 is when I was like, all right, boom. And I think a lot of people say that, right? Like 6 months you're in the Google sandbox until you like really start seeing anything, if that site's even going to like take off.
When we were like really deep in with LMM, it would take us at least 3 months before Google would even rank an article. So I think 6 months makes sense. But I'm looking at this and I think it's like really easy to kind of like go through and like, it was 8 months, this is what we spent. But like when you're building, 8 months is like 6 lifetimes. And you're probably like super anxious. You can't believe it didn't happen yet. But it's only 8 months,
Yeah. I mean, luckily for me, this is not my main site. I had the main site going. Actually, no, I picked up the main site in September of this year. So this is technically...
Did you make any revenue before we jump to the next site?
No. So this is, you can see I have like profit down here, but I didn't even start running. I don't start running ads until there's legit traffic. And that's kind of changed over time. Like, when I could only do Ezoic, whatever, 5,000. As we'll go to 2022, you see I put Ezoic on the site because you can get a site with less page views in there. Now, like both these sites are in AdThrive, which AdThrive requires, I think, 100,000 for your first site and then 30,000 for any add-on site. So for me, I'm probably just going to wait, like any site I create in the future, up to like 30,000 page views, you're maybe making a couple $100 a month. And like, there's debate on does Ezoic slow a site down? Everyone kind of likes to deliberate and stuff. I think they've gotten better, but like, people say Azoic. And you're kind of like, yeah, you've probably seen it firsthand, right?
Working with customers, and they take control of your name servers, your DNS. You kind of,
yes,
you could actually not do it that way. I think it's faster not to do it that way, but yeah, they add a lot of things in.
Yeah, that's how they recommend, right? Like you change your DNS. I think that's how I did it, and it didn't tank my site. I didn't notice like any traffic changes. But anytime I like voluntarily making my site slower, that's not an awesome thing. But anyway, like my threshold now, it's like I'm just trying to get a site to basically 30,000 page views, and then we'll add AdThrive to start monetizing with ads. But yeah, you can see like, so I was saying I had my main site going, which kind of is like, that was a site I stepped into, already had 50,000 page views. We slapped ads on it and started making money. So like I saw what was possible. So, I wasn't starting completely from scratch where I was like, man, is this going to work? Like how much money can I actually make off ads? Like I'd already been bought in a little bit because I had a site I picked up in September from a buddy of mine that I was working on. And yeah, that coincides with me stopping on the site. I was like wanting to put more effort in the other side. I hit 40 on this one. I'm like, let's let this one chill and see what happens.
Yeah, you want to redirect your budget to what was working better.
Right, exactly. All right, are you ready for 2022?
Yeah.
All right, so 2022 has, a lot more fun stats down here. You can see in January, we went from 6K in December to 16.5 in January. So like, all right, this starting to roll. I had installed Azoic, so you see some money actually coming in the door. I put Amazon affiliate on the site, a couple affiliate links, and then Azoic ads had just started at the end of the month, which is why it's only $6. But you can see I hadn't put money back in January. I started in February once I was like, okay, ads are on. I made almost $15 in January. Let's start putting some money, this thing's alive. Like let's get the writer back on it.
So you were like, there's life, so let me lean in. I don't necessarily need to call profits yet. You're like, okay, at least it's now worthy of more investment.
Yeah, for me it was like, okay, this thing is alive. It has, it went from nothing to 16,500 in a couple months. I mean, 10 months, but like it's the inflection just happens all of a sudden, right? And you feel motivated on it. You go from nothing and then the site's picking up. Sometimes it's a slow slog. Sometimes it'll be like 1,000 in 1 month, then 2,000, like much more linear. But like, when you see a nice little pop, I think it gives you motivation to just like, all right, let's get this thing going again. So February, you can see, okay, Azoic is running for the whole month, but my RPMs are really terrible, like $10. I think most people are shooting for like $15 to $20 minimum. This thing's doing $10 with 47 articles.
Why do you think that is?
Looking back, it's a niche where people don't really spend. It's not a sport where people are spending a lot of money to play it. Like you have to, when you start these sites, if you're going with, if like ads are going to be your strategy, you really have to think about who is this audience? Like, is this an audience that spends a lot of money on whatever topic you're talking about? Because advertisers are going to want to get in front of those people. If it's not really, like you're not going to get paid that well. I mean, part of it is how long do people stay on your site, right? Like the more ads you can serve, the longer people are on your site. Like, yes, your RPMs are going to be higher, but it's also like, what is the audience you have? Do they spend a lot of money on that thing you're talking about?
Or are they just affluent? Like a lot of times I'll go to a site and I'll get like a SEMrush ad or like a Betterment ad or something because I was like on their sites. It has nothing to do with the actual content.
Right. Yeah, tech companies are going to be paying more for their RPMs on ads, right? So like if you have that type of audience visiting your site, you're going to be making more. So good point there. So you can see like the things I'm tracking. I have like page views, RPMs of ads only, CPM, which is that's like affiliate plus ads. Number of live articles I started tracking, average dollar per post, and average page views per post. Average dollar per post is one I picked up from Ann Moss. You know her?
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she does like some crazy. She's got like a ton of sites. I think she does like 200K a month, like elite publisher. And she talks
Is she
about
the one with like yey.com or something?
yeah,
like that?
Yeys, yeys.com. Yes. Yeys. I think I've Yeys. She brought this metric up and I thought it was good for like, if you have a portfolio, it helps you really key in on which sites are making the most per post. So like, where should I be investing each dollar? Where is each post that I add to this site going to incrementally make me more? So I like that metric to add here. You can see in like March, I started writing, had the writer pick up again. Then I moved that writer over to the main site because he actually has experience with that niche as well. So I was like, all right, he's decent. Let me move him. And you can see here, I switched from Ezoic to Monumetric. RPMs stayed basically the same. They probably even went down. I think that was also because, like I was mentioning, summer's not a great time for this sport. So I think that was part of it. And then finally in August, we got this thing, or July, we got it on AdThrive. We crossed that 30K and I got into AdThrive's network. And you can see once I got into AdThrive, my RPMs almost 15, 17, 21, last month 26. Granted, it's November and there's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but okay, cool. This thing can actually produce a lot better with AdThrive. And so you see I started investing in like 5 to 6 articles a month on this site again.
So why'd you jump Ezoic to Monumetric and then again to AdThrive? And you're only on Monumetric for like 5 months. Are they just like notoriously bad or something? Like,
I think someone hit me up on their team and was like, hey, we can guarantee, or like, here's a bunch of case studies.
Monumetric hit you up.
Yeah. They're like, here's a bunch of case studies on how we can beat Ezoic. They also, I think Monumetric handles ads for you. Ezoic, you have to use like ad inserter and put the ads in yourself and manage it and optimize it. So I think Monumetric was going to take that off my hands, which I personally hate using ad inserter and all that. Like I love AdThrive, and I think, what's the one that starts with an M?
Mediavine.
They do full service, which I love. I like that a lot better. So I think that's why they sold me on it. And I knew it was just a placeholder, but I wanted to try them out, see if they could do any better than Ezoic. In case, I started a site in the future, like it's a case study for me. Like, should I go use Monumetric or Ezoic? And like, to me, they're the same. It's just Monumetric gives you some white glove. I
don't know if it was the seasonality, but your RPMs went down when you're with Monumetric.
It did. I think in like the first 30 days, they did like how we compared to AdThrive and like, or to Ezoic, and it was slightly better or about the same. But yeah, if you look at this, they did worse. But it's also seasonality, so it wasn't an apples to apples comparison. With seasonal sites, it's so hard to do like an apples to apples comparison with these ad networks. Unless you sit for like a whole year or something. Exactly. Just for the sake of an experiment. Which exactly. Which sucks. Yeah, not cool. So yeah, now you can see the site. I mean, November had an awesome month. October revenue was $730, November $1,300, and so I'm only spending $400 a month. So it's profiting. Last month we made $900, and so December's looking to be roughly on the same path, and I'll probably spend the same amount on content. Like, my plan for this is like, as long as it keeps growing, like even if it's tiny growth, I'll reinvest in 4 to 5 articles a month to keep, the site feeling fresh and new. And, you and I have seen Google likes that. And to cover just a wider swath of keywords, I'll just keep reinvesting $400 and let this thing kind of ride. Now it's nice, right? It's like a year and a half of work and pay some bills, $1,000 a month. Not bad. This is awesome. And so looking at it, I mean, year and a half, 2 years, we're talking a few $1,000s in income. Granted, you kind of invested ahead of the income. If it was just 2022, it looks like you would be profitable. Yeah, let's see. Let's go to the right. Yeah, profit for the year, $2,000. And I have you see here, I started investing in a virtual assistant in October. So now it's like this site requires like 2 hours of my time a month, maybe 3. So that's like the more important part, right? Like I used to invest more time. I got it to a place I like. Now, how do I like make it as hands off as possible. Like I still want to be involved in the strategy. I'm doing keyword research, creating briefs for writers, but we have like templates for a lot of the keywords we cover because we're basically like, okay, here are keywords that work. Let's find variations of those keywords. And then the VA is posting and publishing and everything. So I try to make it as hands off as possible now.
So you have your main site, you have this site, and are those the only two that you're working on?
I just started a new site in October.
Oh, okay. So right now, at least, or up until this point, it's either like your team's working on your main site or this one. And this one, in a sense, competes with attention from the one that's bringing in much more.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, this one doesn't even like it's at a steady state. Again, 2-3 hours a month. Like that's not taking much away from the main site. Like it's not taking a ton of mind share. Like I'm not thinking about like, how do I really grow and blow this thing out? I'm like, all right, I think I can just like really with 2 to 3 hours a month, grow this thing slowly, let it do its thing. And then maybe we'll sell it in like a year or two. I don't know. Or just whatever, hang on to the cash flow.
Yeah. To be decided.
Yeah, I know. A good problem to have. We'll cross that path when we get there. But yeah, 3 sites. I thought this one would just be the best example of like, I started this one from scratch. The main site, I had a leg up. I acquired it from a friend. It had like, doing 30 to 60,000, another seasonal site doing 30 to 60,000 page views. But like, that's not starting from scratch. I'd acquired it 5 years after he had started it. So
what kind of multiple did you pay? Or what was like the deal that you,
He retained equity. So originally I had like made an offer, anyone who starts something and puts that much time into it has an inflated view of how much it's worth, not like based on actual, like it was bringing in like $100 a month. So the value of it should be like $5,000. I think I offered him like 15, 20 and he wanted 40 or something. And instead we decided like he would just retain a smaller percentage of equity, a minority share of the equity there. So like he'll make that either in cash flow or if we sell, he retains that as well.
What percentage?
He has 20%.
And so, but you gave him no money?
No upfront for me. I just acquired it. I get 80%, he gets 20 and he gets to be like hands off with it. But the funny thing is now that it's like kicking and humming, he's like trying to get more involved with it. So we'll see in the future, like if I can.
Hey, I mean, he has equity. That's free effort right there.
Yeah. And it's a good buddy of mine. And like, if he, we've talked about like, he can come in and do some cool stuff. Like he knows advertising really well. He's good at like partnerships and stuff. We'll see. Like maybe he just comes in, starts, we can move back to 50-50 or whatever it is. Like I'm open to it changing, but right now it's just 80-20 on that main site.
That's awesome. Also hard, and as it gets to be bigger numbers.
I know. So we'll see what happens with that one, but it's in a good place. It's growing fast. I'm really excited for that one. I think it has an insane amount of potential. But enough about me. Do you want to cover Listen Money Matters first? Giftlab?
Yeah, sure. Well, I could show a scary spreadsheet. So let me see if I can distill it down quickly. We have podcast downloads, which in the beginning it didn't exist. We have unique visitors, their page views. I have like all of the details because I was just crazy about data. But the actual, so here's costs. So I was not all that different from you, actually.
This is year 1 of Listen Money Matters.
Yeah, this is year 1. I started December, like registered domain, kind of in earnest, started in January. And then this was income. And what happened is like I was just messing around. But because in the personal finance space, you can sell things that are worth a lot. And so I think I made like 1 or 2 sales in January. And I like wigged out. I like multiplied it times 1,000,000. I think one of those maybe was a Bluehost thing or something. And I knew I was going to be a millionaire, and it was just a matter of like weeks or something.
How did you make a sale in month? You saw for me, it's like it took me 8 months to earn $1. How did you make, like, where did you get traffic from that you made a sale in like that first month?
So you started in 2021. And it's very competitive now. I started this January is January 2014. It was not very competitive. And I think I created, so I think I had like, Ahrefs didn't even exist when I first started. I think I like Googled need money now, and there was like just garbage. And I was like, one of my first posts on This Might Matters, I was like, how do I elevate this? I called it the need money now strategy. And it was kind of like, some loan things, or here ways to kind of earn, online business type stuff. And so that kind of took off because there was no competition, and everyone was flying blind, basically. And I didn't do much better than that for like 5 months, but was producing things. So all the writing, a lot of it was coming from me. I did get help from other people. Kind of didn't really start paying for writing until like year 2 and beyond meaningfully.
So you were creating all the content. You were creating all the content up until that point.
Yeah. And this was like way back when like people would like spin articles. And so I would spend all this time, like I would write this article and then I would try and figure out how to like get it to spin and be decent. Dude, I could have written like 5 articles in the time it would take to like, I don't know if you've ever seen that where you like replace a word with a bunch of variables, and is gross.
Isn't that like programmatic now?
Now, I mean, the AI will just do it for you. But the idea is like you write an article and then you're like, instead of the word market, use stock market or investing, or use a bunch of versions of that word or that sentence. And then the spinner will just generate a bunch of versions of that article with the rules you set in place.
Got it.
It was very tedious. So anyways, year 1, and I have the summary over here in my cheat sheet. So year 1, Listen Why Matters only earned $1,700, and I was like a crazed maniac about trying to get it to earn. The next year,
but I mean that's pretty awesome that in year 1 you actually made money at that time. Like different from my path on my site from scratch. Cash
flow, not so much. Cash flow lost almost $5,000, $4,900.
All right, so we're in the same
kind
boat.
of actually similar to your story.
Yeah.
And the thing is, didn't even know each other. 2 different worlds we're operating in, and it kind of landed very similarly.
Yeah.
I have this big line here between October and November because that's when we actually started the podcast. That's the first line right here. Grew pretty quickly, and what happened is it wound up dragging the site with it. And we learned a lot about kind of like how podcasts work in tandem with sites. Not all that different from why I wanted to start seeking profit, to like help the site.
Dude, this is nuts. You grew in like a year up to 200,000 downloads a month. That's insane. I mean, that's again, you were like a pioneer, I think, in like podcasting.
There
right?
weren't
That was
really any. It was like us, Ramsey, and Susie Orman. It was and then it just kind of dragged the site with it. So it was, January we're at 2,400 unique visitors, and if you go all the way down to November, December, and this is like dead season for personal finance. Mm-hmm. Almost 10x'd it. But then, the following year, it was like sideways. We really focused on the podcast. But income wise, we were earning about $100 a month. So still didn't figure it out. And as we go, we were hitting like 900 in July. We got almost 6,000 in October. And so it is like low tide, but we started to figure out essentially which products to promote. It was all coming from Impact Radius. It's now called Impact. So we didn't even try ads.
And so this was all people going to the site from like leveraging the podcast, telling people to go check out listenwhyitmatters.com, and then people clicking around, reading your articles, clicking on affiliate links and taking an action. All the money was from affiliate.
Yeah. And I think you called it correctly that it was really all the podcast. And so at this point, 11,000 people from Google came, but like 180,000 from the show. And as we scaled the site up and kind of grew the podcast, I think I attributed more value to the site than the show. When you're in someone's head, like your podcast, like the earbuds, you're in their head, it's just like a different game. And we eventually, years later, learned how to do like verbal call to actions that would earn thousands of dollars from like one mention in an episode. So we tried our hand at products. But if you look at product sales, and this is across multiple years as compared to affiliate income, we just couldn't. I had read someone wrote Evernote Essentials, teaching how to use Evernote, a free tool, and they had earned $100,000 the first year. I'm like, oh, I could do that with Mint, and then we'll just earn $100,000. This is roughly the most that it probably earned.
255.
2,500. Mastering Mint, that book, and I think what I learned like way later is you create a thing. It doesn't have to be good, but you have to market it. And so we weren't marketing. We were just sticking it on the site and hoping people would passively buy. But it was year 1, 1.7K, year 2, 18.3K, year 3, 31.1K. Then finally in year 4, it was 112.5, then 218, then 363, 504. So like it took us basically 4 years to figure out how to monetize the site. And then we were double or tripling a year.
What happened between, so you took us up to year 2. What were the big changes between year 2, where you made 18, and then year 4, where you passed 100K? What was like the big difference there?
We were creating better quality content and way less content. And, everything that we created worked together. So when we started, we were creating an article, we were creating an episode, maybe there'd be companion show notes, and it was really disjointed. And eventually we came up with a publishing schedule and a podcast. We'd have a companion article that would combine into one bigger thing. As we kind of went on, we realized that we should optimize for listens in the iTunes store by using popular names of people that we interviewed or things people might search for, SEOing the article. So it was really like making more with the same effort. If anything, producing less, just better things.
That's right. You guys would take an episode. Let's say you were talking about how to use Mint. I don't know, for an example that you were just talking about. And you would like transcribe it and then make that an article, right? That could be picked up by Google. So now you have the podcast and you turn that into a content piece that would hopefully get some organic traffic too.
Yeah. Wouldn't even transcribe it. We, within like 3 or 4 months of the show, a fan reached out. She lived in New York. And so Matt and I went to go visit her at a bar, obviously at a bar because we were drinking beer on the show. And she just loved the show. And anyways, we kind of knew when we were going there that maybe we'd see if she would help us. She wound up writing the show notes. And because she was a fan anyway, she would listen to the episode and then write what we discussed into an article. And then kind of built on that process. That was Candace. So many of the articles on Listen to My Manager from her. She still works with us. She's awesome. But it was like, I feel like transcribing wouldn't read or work the same way as like an actual article created for that topic.
Yeah, that's smart. So she would read it or listen to it and then like use that as like the outline and would add things to it and all this. You're right. If you transcribe it and just paste it up, like I think I tried that years ago when the company I worked for had a podcast, right? Like run it through rev.com or whatever, transcribe it. Cool. You got a couple thousand words, slap it up. And it just never really works because there's no one wants that. Yeah. It's like, you're not reading something, like you can't skim that in a good way where you get like little snippets and information. It's just like, you have to read the whole thing to get anything. So that's smart.
and we used to create docs to kind of help prep us for the show. Eventually, we learned to like give those to Candace so she could use our research. We made that better. But it still took us a really long time. Like I thought I understood how to make money with affiliate programs and stuff, but it like took me about 4 years to actually know. Giftlab, on the other hand, year one, I'd earned 9.7K, and year two, it earned 102K, 102.7K.
Okay, so let's go. Giftlab, I think, will be a really interesting one for listeners, because that I think is more in like Listen Money Matters. You built a brand, you built like a podcast, which let's be real, niche site people don't really do that. They build a site and you're either monetizing through ads or like affiliate, right? Like it's all online. It's less about a brand and more about just picking a niche that you think there's an opportunity. So how did you make that much money with Giftlab the first year? You just started ranking that quickly?
So we were using Ahrefs at that point, and like so that was 2017, 2018. So we're like legit early adopters, and in researching for Listen Money Matters, Laura found like the gift niche, which was not a niche. There was no anything really related to this. She found all these, like when we were doing Listen Money Matters, we were just like volume, 20,000, 30,000 volume keywords. Like, let's just go after the big dogs. And we found a treasure trove of multi-thousand keywords with zero difficulty. No one even attempting to, like, Amazon is ranking number one for these. Mm-hmm. And our prevailing wisdom was Google hates Amazon, and literally a piece of garbage could rank above an Amazon article in the SERPs. And so we just kind of went at it, creating. We studied any other gift list we could find, kind of combined the best pieces. And then we used Listen Money Matters to help promote it. We talked about it on the show. There, it got linked to in show notes. And I think part of it is because there was no competition, and because we just went like wide very quickly. We created, I don't remember exactly, but I want to say like 50 or so lists in the first year that were like researched, clear scoped, blah, blah, blah.
That's impressive.
And given like a complete vacuum of stuff, it got picked up.
That's still impressive for 50 articles. How much money? What was that first year?
Well, that was 9.7K the first year. I think we probably had about 100 or so the second year.
What month did you guys start? Was it another January start?
No, we started at mid-year. But obviously like January and everything are the big months. Mm-hmm. So it didn't marinate that much, but it was getting, I guess, links from Listen Money Matters, which helped.
Still, you're right. When you own other properties, you get to link to your new properties. And if you have, let's talk about it. One of the best link building strategies is like having friends with sites. Like, hey, dude, can you hook me up with a link here? But still, I do that and it still takes months still. I'm surprised like you guys started mid-year and had made a couple thousand, like you already had articles ranking, only 50 articles. Like that's impressive. So it means, I guess, like,
this I don't know. 4 years ago though. So it's like a lifetime of the internet. Yeah,
but 4 years ago still, I think I remember it still kind of being the same. Like it takes a while. No, that's not true. You're right. It was easier like 4 years ago.
There was just less competition. Yeah. Like, no, there was not a single big site that was doing this.
Yeah.
And anything that was even remotely competing was so bad. Like if you, as a person looking to actually find a gift, went to this, you're like, this is garbage. Like it's all garbage. Like, did anyone even try?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a good takeaway too. I think your first couple are going to take the longest to figure it out. How do I make money? What are the levers I can pull? And then on subsequent projects, like you just kind of have your checklist and your like starter guide is just better, and you can make money faster and you know what to do at certain milestones. So, yeah.
I had this friend that was looking to build new sites, and I don't think he ever really did it. But I really, we were trying to set goals, and I was trying to like help him without doing it. And it was always like, after a year, aim $1,000 a month. That was like the goal, and like all focused towards what needs to happen to get there. And it's one, like, you may not get there, and if you get to 800, that's still awesome. But like kind of setting into his mind, like, it's got to be at least a year. And honestly, I think you don't have fire until you're at like year 3. You know, then you maybe have something defensible that's growing quickly on its own.
Yeah. Niche down on Twitter, right? Mike, I think his last name is Donovan or something. He, you know, you see his whatever, that background image on his Twitter. It's like he's slogging, creating all his own content. Then year 3, it just goes insane. And now he's making like, you know, 40K a month, but he just stuck with it for years, making so little. And it's like, that's, if you don't, it's either two things. Either you have the money and you go buy a site, right? Or you acquire one, like I talked about with my main site, and you get the head start, and you get to start making, like, you know, real money within 6 months, a year. Or you got to just put in the time to like let this thing grow, and, you know, you're building an asset. It takes time.
There was a point where Laura and I were going to buy a site, and we're looking on Flippa and like Motion Investments, like a whole bunch of these sites. Most of them are pretty bad. Yeah. And the thing is, like, you're looking at it, and yeah, they have links, or yeah, they created this stuff, but if the content is bad, like, you're literally buying garbage that just happened to, I don't know that I believe you can get like a really good site unless it's like an off-market deal. You know, like, you make a connection, you're in a private Facebook group. Like when Matt sold Roasty, that was through a private Facebook group.
Yeah.
On the market, like, it'll get bid up to some ridiculous level.
I agree with you. I think, you know, no shade on Flippa or Empire Flippers or all those, but for the most part, when I look through them, you know, you're wading through like a sea of garbage. There's just so many sites that people, you know, like, people are building to flip, and they just, whatever.
Yes.
Get some.
I think that's it. If you go to like the higher price points, like maybe you're going to pay 100, 200, 300,000, you'll find like real sites that people dedicated years towards. But the cheaper end, like, they're literally building to flip. Their job is to flip sites.
Right.
And so they're not trying to make something that'll stand the test of time. It just needs to last 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Get the valuation up, like, is, you know, show some growth, so someone pays, you know, the higher end of the multiple, and, you know, wipe your hands and they're done with it. So, yeah. All right. I think that's probably a good place for us to end it. I mean, we got to like walk people through like different sites. You know, you had Listen Money Matters for a long time. You built a brand around it. I have this site in the sports niche that's slow growing. We kind of got to see, like, you know, month 8, it finally started to perform. Giftlab, that one was on like crack, man. I think that was like really fast results from what I've seen. But yeah, I think people got to kind of see, like, how long does it take to get to like actually make some money on a site, and you start from scratch.
So if to distill it down, I feel like it's, you know, 1 year to convince your significant other there may be something there. 3 years before you could even consider quitting a job or something. You know, take some time.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
But if you missed anything, we'll have all the details in the show notes. My Twitter URL, Emil's Twitter, the sites that we talked about. We won't include Emil's, but, you know, mine or whatever. Any goodies we think of. If you like this, like us on YouTube, subscribe in a podcast, leave us a review. Anything to encourage us. And yeah, thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Later, man.
See you, dude.
We're seeking profit. We're seeking profit. We're seeking profit. We're seeking profit.